Welcome to the Dave Palma Show, the podcast that revives, restores, and awakens your innermost capabilities.
You have the training and the talent to succeed, but do you have the guts to fail?
I love what I do. When you love what you do, you want to be the best at it.
Today is about the power of you. You will change the world.
Find your path to success through the journey of those who have succeeded. And now, your host, Dave Palma.
Hi, welcome back to the Dave Palma Show. And with me in this episode, I have the author of his new book, Pinnacle Five Principles That Take Your Business to the Top of the Mountain. Steve Preda, welcome to the Dave Palma Show. Oh, welcome
Dave,
back. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, great to be back. Great to be
Yeah,
back. I remember our last show was a lot of fun as well.
Yeah. I was going to say welcome back, actually. Yeah, so it was. And we was talking about your last book then, actually. So now you've got a new book, which is co-authored as well. Pinnacle, together with Gregory Cleary. So tell us about the book Pinnacle and the 5 principles that takes your business to the top of the mountain.
Yeah, so the idea is that there are thousands and 100,000 of businesses. Actually, in the US, there are 1.7 million small to medium-sized businesses, of which the average lifespan of these businesses is 8.5 years, and 180,000 of these businesses disappear each year. And only 1 in 10 of these businesses ever finds a buyer or investor. So the terrible implication of that is that most business owners end up disappointed and broke rather than contented and wealthy. And what I was looking for to do with Pinnacle, the book, the 5 principles, is to help these business owners to actually create more businesses that stay here for a long time, that finds investors, where the owners can build a team that is energized and excited to work in this company, and they make money as well at the same time. So Pinnacle is all about helping the small to medium-sized business owner build a well-functioning, growing, and profitable business.
All right. Okay. Well, that sounds great. I mean, obviously, most people want to stay in business. I mean, it is a well-known fact that most businesses collapse within the first year or so, or 50%. So
there are different statistics. So there's a statistic that 80% of businesses disappear after 5 years.
5 years, that's right.
And then another 50% after the next 5 years.
Oh, right.
So there are different statistics, but what I found in my research while writing my previous book, Buyable, is that the average lifespan is 8.5 years, which actually has been pretty constant.
Yeah.
And that means that 50% of these companies remain after 10 years, and that's not a great statistic. So how can we improve the statistics? It is to bring those management and strategy concepts that have been around and which the Fortune companies have been using for decades, simplifying them down so that small to medium-sized businesses who don't employ MBAs can also understand it, absorb it, implement them, and then sustain them in their business so that business become much more organized and well-run, and then these businesses can be successful as well.
Excellent. Well, let's just run into these 5 principles. And I know I had a brief look at the contents, and you describe them as mountains, don't you? Why do you describe them as mountains, by the way?
Well, it's just to stay with the analogy, the metaphor of climbing the mountain. And you know how if you ever climb mountains, what sometimes you find is that you see this mountain top and you think you're going to get to the very top, and it actually turns out to be a false peak, because as soon as you get to the top, you see there's a higher mountain behind it. So typically this is how businesses grow. They climb the mountain, they get to the top, and then they realize that, okay, that's just the beginning to be able to climb an even higher mountain. So the multiple mountains are higher and higher. The other point I was trying to make was that it's not a straight line. So it's not like you're always growing. Sometimes you have to consolidate. Sometimes you have to shrink a little bit to be able to grow again. Sometimes you overgrow. Sometimes you hire people who are not A players and they hold you back. So you have to regroup and then you have to grow again. Or sometimes there is a recession that forces you to shrink, depend on the industry you are in. Some industries are more cyclical than others. But for example, where I come from, investment banking was extremely cyclical. So if there was a recession, businesses pulled back, they stopped spending money, they stopped acquiring other companies, especially because those companies didn't want to sell because their numbers were dropping. And then a lot of investment bankers were let go by the big firms. And then when good times came back, then these firms rehired all these people. So it was a cyclical way of growing, and sometimes that means there are multiple mountains.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. And you mentioned about A players. Who are the A players, and how do you keep them?
So this concept of A players that comes from a book Brad Smart wrote about 20 years ago, Top Grading. And what the way he approached this, he said, people who are high culture fit for you and who are performing at a high level, a 10 scale, if you score them 9 or 10 in both realms, they are culture fit and productive, they are your A players. People who are between 6 and 8 on both dimensions, they are your A potentials. They are not quite at the top, but they are pretty good. And by good coaching, you can get them to the top to be A players. And then the B players, the ones that are really great culture fit, but they are just not as productive. They miss deadlines. They need help. These are we call the A players. They are the climbers that are trying to make themselves better all the time. And the B players are often the ones that are nice people. You love to have a beer with them around the campfire, but they're not gonna put up the tent. They're not going to collect the firewood for you. Yeah. So they are great people, but they're just not as productive. Yeah. And then you have the BC players who are highly productive people who are just difficult to get on with. They don't fit your culture. They don't embrace your values. They are sometimes toxic. And think of a star salesperson sometimes. All they care about is their own commission. They don't really care about the team. They don't invest time in helping other people. They are in it for themselves, and that can harm the business in many ways. Some of them unseen. So those are your BC players. We call them cranks because they are not as fun to be around. You want to keep them in home office. And then all those people who are neither culture fit nor productive, hopefully you don't have any of those because you already let them go or you didn't hire them in the first place. But if you have those, we call them cavemen. They are the people who, not social, not productive. They're just in their own little universe and just taking up bandwidth in the company. And especially management, it's critical where as a leader, how you spend your time, because if your time is drained by your B players and BC and C players, then you are doing your company and your A players a disservice. You should be focusing your coaching efforts on your A potentials, get them to become A players, and your A players help them find a bigger role inside your company and another reason to grow your company so that your A players can continue to grow in your company.
Okay, well, that's quite interesting. Well, I certainly would want to keep away from the C players. Then they don't sound like very nice people to me. But
they don't help your business. That's for sure.
No, they don't, and I'm surprised that entrepreneurs want to keep them on. I mean, obviously, they probably won't last long anyway, would they? I suppose. Yeah, okay. Well, let's get down to the book now. So, how do you 5 times your business in 5 years with 5 principles, basically?
Yeah. So the idea here, 5xing or 5 timing the business, is that it sounds like it sounds like kind of something that's really hard to accomplish. And I'm not saying it's easy to accomplish, but if we break it down, then it looks much more doable. And what it takes is, if you grow a business by the revenue of a business by 20% for 5 consecutive years, which is doable. It means, especially when inflation is running at 7-8%.
It's about 13 in the UK, I think.
13 in the UK. So that's
it's
only
very high.
7% real growth. Now, I hope it's not going to stay that way. But anyway, 20% means that you are in expansion mode. You are, maybe you are entering new markets. Maybe you have new products. You're innovating. So 20% is doable if you really focus on it. Even professional service companies can hire 20% of the workforce and integrate them. So 20% is an ambitious, but it's a doable growth rate. If you do it for 5 years, that's going to grow the size of your company, the revenue of your company by 2.5 times. And then if over that time period, you double your net profit margin, for example, from 5% to 10%, or from 10% to 20%, then you will have at least 5 times the value of your company, maybe even more, because the bigger the company, the higher the multiple of profits in the valuation. So that's kind of the idea. And you can 5x your company, you can grow your revenues dynamically if you follow the 5 principles. So you make sure that you have great people in your organization, A players and A potentials that you're constantly coaching up. And then they are driven by a powerful purpose that you have defined for them. You have clarified your strategy. They know where you're going and how you're going to get there. They are executing on your playbooks. So you have identified the best practice way of doing things, and you documented it, and you're constantly optimizing your playbooks. And everyone is held to be performing at a high level. So perform is principle number 4. So everyone is executing and performing. And then finally, the byproduct is profit, but we also look at how to increase your profitability, what is the elite level of profitability in your industry segment. We benchmark your business, and then we engineer the business to deliver that elite level of profitability, and then we sustain that over time using a strategy stack. So if you do that stuff, you definitely can grow your top line by 20%, possibly more, and you're definitely going to increase your net profit margin because you are positioning and differentiating better. You are aligning your people around your vision and your strategy. You are creating consistency and scalability with playbooks. You have the discipline of everyone executing in a focused way on what moves the company forward, the performance and the profit. And then you can 5x your business, and which means that you will attract A players, A potentials. And you can do whatever you want. You can raise money, you can sell your business, you can acquire other companies, you can be the category of one in your industry.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, that all sounds great to me. Well, let's look dive closer into your book. I've got the contents in front of me, and what it looks like is that you've got them in those 5 contents you speak about, which is people, purpose, playbook, performance, and profits. You've got them as mountains. So mountain 1 is people, and you've structure that into 3 practices: culture, function, and coaching. What can you tell me about that?
So the way this book is built, there are the 5 principles, which each of them are mountains. And then within each principle, I drilled down and I asked myself the question, what is the practice, or how can I break this down into 3 ideas, each of these principles, that is really going to make this principle come alive? And the people principle, the 3 ideas are culture, functions, and coaching. So culture is all about defining your core values and making sure that you hire people and promote people who embrace your core values. Functions is about determining what your business needs to get to the next level, what kind of functions they need. Every business has sales, marketing, operations, finance, administration functions. So what are the functions for your business? And then what are the outcomes that those functions have to deliver? And so what's a good person for you? The good person is that lives your core values and is able to execute on your outcomes in their functions at a high level and consistent manner. So that's people. And then the coaching process. So we created with my co-author Greg Cleary, we created a model. We call it the mentor meeting, where everyone in the company mentors, coaches their direct reports at least once a quarter, or once every 2 months or every month, depending on the maturity of the people, and help them grow. Show them that you care about them, give them feedback, but also get feedback from them to make sure that you know where they are, what they are thinking, how they feel about what's happening in their career in the company. Set expectations and make sure that you know the expectations of your direct reports as well. And then use this meeting to re-energize the relationship. So that's the coaching, helping people with feedback, setting expectations, and demonstrating that you care about your people, and they know that they are working for a boss that really has their best interest at heart, and they're in a place where they can grow, and there are high expectations, but it allows them to actually become a successful professional in your company. So that's the people principle in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm. So mountain 2, purpose, you've broken that down into vision, strategy, and alignment. What can you tell me about mountain 2?
So purpose. So we use the purpose kind of as the bucket, the principle, because we wanted each principle to start with a P.
Mm-hmm.
The idea here is that these days employees are not satisfied with just taking a paycheck home, right? They want to work for a company that makes a difference, where they feel they can belong, where they can make a difference themselves. They want to be in a fulfilling environment. And how we break this down is we say, okay, what does it take to get there? You need to have a vision. You need to be able to articulate and communicate to everyone in the company where we are going, what we are trying to achieve. One of my clients, who is in the energy efficiency consulting space, their vision is that they want to convert 1 million houses into net zero houses by the year 2040, which means that these houses will not burden the environment. These are going to use the energy that they produce, as opposed to relying on fossil fuels and so on. So that's their purpose, and everybody in the company knows that this is the mission they are on, and they want to be part of this story. So that's your vision. And then what's your strategy? So how are you going to get to your vision? So we articulate a differentiating strategy, and we have a tool called the strategy squares, where we look at strategy from 4 different directions, and we basically define ultimately a one-phrase strategy that synthesizes the strategy down to a single phrase, so that everyone understands the company, what they need to do in order to further the company's strategy. And the alignment. So it's not enough to have a vision and have a strategy, but you want to have everyone to be aligned around the strategy, and you need to reinforce and integrate your strategy into everything you do in the company.
Right. Yes. Develop and integrate your ideology, so you put it.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to mountain 3, playbooks. I was quite intrigued by that, playbooks, actually. I mean, there's certainly a lot of use of the word playbooks. It's kind of like an instruction book, a workbook. What would you say the mountain 3 playbooks is in terms of the 5 principles?
So the playbook is the idea that in order for a company to grow, everyone has to grow. And how do you grow in a company? We start at the top, because people at the top are not growing, then no one else is allowed to grow. So that's kind of a lead on top of the company. And the leadership team members grow by elevating themselves from doing the work to actually leading other people doing the work. And they need to hand off the actual activities that they do, whether it's sales or operations or finance. They actually have to stop doing those activities. They have to become leaders and have other people do those activities. And how you do this, when you have people that have less experience and a less refined intuition than yourself working for you, then you have to create a playbook so that they can follow the recipe. And that's what playbooks is about. So we identify the person who owns the best practice in a certain area, let's say sales. We record it, we document it, make sure that it makes sense, we review it, we activate the playbook, and then the playbook is defined, and it's time to ingrain it in the organization and then optimize it over time so that we keep improving on it. But that allows people to do less repeatable tasks that require more knowledge and decisions and judgment. And anything that's repeatable, that is turned into the playbook, and then young people come into the company and they are ambitious and they want to do a good job, then they have a recipe of this is the best practice, and they learn to do it, they deliver it, and over time they're going to improve upon it, because when they understand it deeply, then they can start optimizing the playbook and improve it.
Right. Okay. So we're close now to the top of the mountain. So let's get to Mountain 4. It's quite exciting, actually. So Mountain 4, perform. And I know all about performance, being an ex-athlete and obviously being a firefighter as well. So certainly in the business world, you do need performance measurement as well, don't you? So what does the book say about that?
You absolutely do. So the idea here is that you have a vision, you have a strategy, so you know where you're going long term. Let's say you have this 1 million net zero homes that you want to create. That's your long-term strategy, 2040. So the medium term, there are going to be some milestones. We call them medium-term milestones. What do you have to hit in order to be able to do that? Maybe you will have had to build out your company so that it can install the solar panels. It can install the heat pumps. It can make these companies, these houses self-sustaining. So you have to create that thing. You also have to promote your service. You have to build thought leadership in the market. You have to get in front of people. You have to have a lot of references, convert these houses. So we define those milestones that you need to achieve. Then the strategy is how you are different, how you position yourself and differentiate yourself so that you are swimming, so to say, in a blue ocean as opposed to a shark-infested red ocean. So you compete in a different way from what most of the market does. So you can find unique ways of being better. And then you have to execute. So you break it down. Your medium-term milestones are broken down into annual growth plan. So you every year you get your team together. Okay, what do we need to do in order to move up the mountain to get one third of the way to our 3-year plan, for example? What are the major objectives you need to achieve? And then every quarter you break it down further to quarterly objectives. We call them FAST rocks. And FAST is an acronym. You may have heard of SMART goals. So FAST goals is a new acronym, and we don't have time to go into it, but it's a new acronym which we believe helps you set better goals. So we set quarterly goals. We call them FAST rocks, and then making sure that everyone in the company also knows that how their performance should be measured. So what are the metrics that they have to hit in order to be contributing to these goals as well? So performance is all about setting good fast rocks. It's about having metrics for everyone, making sure that they are well defined and they are able to hit it, and then have a meeting structure which creates it creates this framework that allows people to hold each other accountable, so that we are not in a vacuum, but we are all together in this. We are holding each other accountable. We are achieving our objectives. we are hitting our metrics, and we are moving the whole team up the mountain towards our vision. That's performance.
Right, that's great. That's great. Well, then we move on to the final mountain, Mountain 5, and it's probably the most favorite part for most people, including myself. And obviously, everyone wants to make money and make a living, but profit is the name of the game. It's the bottom line, isn't it?
Well, listen. I mean, it's not about getting rich. Obviously, as an entrepreneur, you may have dreams and goals, and you start the company because you wanted to achieve them. But in terms of the company, profit is the lifeblood of any company. So without profit, you're not able to innovate. As a company, you're not able to take advantage of opportunities, and you can't take care of your employees or shareholders. So you need profit, and preferably you want to have reasonably high profit so that you can finance your own growth. Because if you are just breaking even, a small profit, then you are not able to finance your growth. Then you have to go to the bank, borrow money, or you have to go to investors, and then the investors are going to meddle in your strategy and will also want to have a say. And it's just life going to get much more complicated for you.
Yeah.
The best way to grow is to have good profit that will finance your growth. And that's the objective here. So what we do is we benchmark each company to the elite of their industry. So let's say we are in construction. Let's say we are in roofing. So in roofing, the elite players, they make 15-20% net profit on their sales revenue. So then this is our goal. So we do the research, and if that's the number, then okay, if other people can do this, how can we do this? So let's look at our business. How can we price ourselves better? How can we be more efficient in terms of cost structure? How do we differentiate better? So we figure out how to engineer the business. And then we don't just want to have this for 1 year. So we have this great profit, and then all our competitors rush in and they copy everything that we do. No, we don't want to do that. We want to dig a moat around our business and build what I call a strategy stack, a combination of unique strategies that will be really hard to copy for competitors because they won't even understand what we are doing. They won't see all the connections, and it will allow us to sustain that profitability long term. So that's the strategy stack, and this is what we mean by profit. So profit is a byproduct, but we can take it to the next level by benchmarking and shooting for top level profitability, and then figuring out how to deliver on this, and then finally to sustain this by building this strategy stack. That's the holy grail of profitability.
Right, I see. And then, of course, you round your book off with the climb management blueprints and climbing tools. I suppose this is all kind of generic as you go through your journey with each 5 principles, yeah?
Well, it's a little bit of a glimpse into the tool shed, so to say. So what are the tools that we use with our clients to help them implement those principles? And in the last couple of chapters, so the management blueprints are these frameworks that have emerged in the last 50 years. And Pinnacle is, excuse the pun, but it's supposed to be on the pinnacle of these blueprints. And also, what are those tools that we are using with our clients? What kind of playbooks? So we define for example, in terms of playbooks, we have an employee journey playbook. We have customer journey playbook. And then we have the strategy squares that I mentioned. We have the Pinnacle pyramid. So we created unique tools that people can use to actually implement this in a simple way, explain it to their leadership colleagues, and then everyone in the company, and then everyone is rowing in the same direction eventually. That's the goal.
Right, fantastic. Well, it sounds like a great book to have by your side for any business, I think, Steve. This isn't for just a specific industry, is it?
No, it's not. It's industry agnostic. The sweet spot for us is companies with 10 to 500 employees. When you have more than 500 employees, depending on the company. So sometimes, I had clients with 1,000 employees. It was a security guard company. but they were really not a big company. They just had a lot of employees. But typically, when you become hundreds of millions of dollars company, then you need more refined systems, and then you have to take it to the next level. And by the time you will have hired those MBAs, and you can then be more sophisticated. But for most small to medium companies, you don't need to overcomplicate this. The opposite. You need to simplify it so that everyone understands it and can embrace it and can execute on it. That's the goal, and hopefully will help you get to that size. The other thing is that Pinnacle is a scalable system. So depending on the coach that you are, the guide that you are using, and we have over 100 guides now. For example, my personal philosophy is that I want to grow with all of my clients. So as the company grows, I'm also growing my knowledge. I get to know them better. I'm doing my research. I know what their issues are, and I'm going to develop tools that will help them specifically in their situation to grow further. So who knows? Maybe in 5 years we will say not 10 to 500 people, but 10 to 5,000 people, because we are growing the system as well with the clients.
Fantastic, Steve. Well, where can people find your book and everything else about you?
So you can find a book on Amazon, Pinnacle 5 Principles that take your business to the top of the mountain, or you can just go on my website, which is stevepreda.com, StevePreda. It's not Prada. I'm not a shoe company. So Preda.com. And then you can download the summary of the book, the summary of my other book, Buyable. There is a Pinnacle Journey Assessment. You can assess your own company as well. And you can watch videos. So you can go there. And I have other websites as well. So when you read the book or you read the summary of the book, then you'll discover other domains that you can go and you can value your business and you can do other stuff about your vision and strategy as a reader of the book.
Fantastic, Steve. Well, Steve, thanks very much for coming on the show and sharing your expertise and your new book with my audience today.
Beg your pardon?
No, I said, Steve, thanks very much for coming on my show and sharing your expertise and your new book with my audience today.
Yeah, no, it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. And and if any of your listeners would like to reach out, they can also reach me via LinkedIn. They can send me a message there, or they can email me, steve@stevepreda.com, and I'll be happy to engage with them.
Cheers. Thanks once again, Steve.
Thank you, Dave.
That's all for this episode. Thanks for listening, and remember, if you want to support what we do, then share, subscribe, and leave a review over on Apple Podcasts. Or head over to my website, davepalmer.com, and click on Rate Show. Well, that's all for now, but I'll see you in the next episode of The Dave Palmer Show.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.